Chapter 134. He said yes. Xavier squeals delightedly, half tackling me with a sudden hug from nowhere. My whole body goes stiff at the impact, my mind completely focused on halting all my natural responses to the unexpected contact. Don't bite, don't claw, don't fight, don't move. I'm absolutely terrified that one of these days, Xavier is going to surprise me and I'll kill him on accident. Or maybe on purpose, insofar as it's possible to separate things I know I shouldn't do from things I feel that burning need for. The instinct, Lady Vesuvius says, is still me. The fact that parts of me want something that the rest of me hates doesn't make those parts separate. People, she says, are inherently contradictory. Everyone struggles with urges and temptations and desires that they know are wrong. We're only noteworthy because of the sheer difference in scope our temptations cover, compared to that of others. We're only different because our failures hurt far more people than anyone else's. Who said yes to what? I asked carefully, peeling myself out of Xavier's grasp. Bentley. He cheers. We're dating. Officially. Well, not officially as in publicly, because officially I think it's against Templar policy to be in a relationship with someone in your own squad. He gives me a hesitant glance that roughly translates to please confirm this for me, help me with coursework. It is, yes, I confirm. Although there's no official punishment listed in said policy, and there are multiple notable examples of the rule being violated without consequence. He gives me a mischievous look and I take a turn towards the women's side of the dorms. He follows me anyway. The two of us are inside the barracks, though I'm still fully armored up because we'll be leaving shortly to attend church. I just need to go grab Captain Julie Salvetta. Huh? It sounds like you did extra research on that one, Xavier hums. Somehow I bet the examples of exceptions aren't part of the rules. You wouldn't have any sort of special interest in that particular bit of policy, would you? I do, actually, I admit. I've been trying to learn more about rules that aren't rules, the difference between the parts of policy that are and are not actually enforced. I still can't figure out why, though. I don't even know why half the rules exist in the first place. The no relationships in the squad one was particularly confusing, since first I had to figure out what that meant. It meant the kind of relationship where people have sex, and then I had to figure out why that was a problem. I'm pretty sure humans really like and celebrate relationships. I'm still figuring this one out. You do? Xavier gasps, absolutely lighting up. Really? Oh my god, don't tell me, I want to guess. It's Melik. The hateful glares are simply evidence of his smoldering passion. The perfect cover story for a pair of forbidden lovers, whose nighttime trysts are legend. Wait, aren't you like 2 years old? I should definitely not continue this line of thinking. I would really prefer you didn't, I agree, grimacing under my helmet. I promise you, Melik actually hates me. What does my age have to do with it, though? It's just... Why no, he gestures vaguely. It's weird. I don't know, I say flatly. I literally don't have the slightest idea why you all think it's weird. I'm only aware that you do because I get all these shocked looks whenever anyone draws attention to it. You should all know this, you were alive when my egg was dropped into the forest. That's not. I mean, okay, we should know that, but it's still shocking anyway because... Well, you look like an adult woman. A pretty darn attractive adult woman, frankly. Like wow, I wouldn't be surprised if jealousy is half of why Gina hates you. But attractiveness is a very adult-only thing. And you're not that age. At all. So it hits us like whiplash, and anybody who, thought of you that way, even a little, is now stuck rapidly trying to reverse those feelings. I scrunch my eyebrows together, trying to mentally wade through the muck of cultural implication I don't fully understand. Especially all the human attractiveness crap. I have enough trouble with body language and facial expressions, I haven't even started trying to figure out whether or not a person counts as attractive by human standards. As far as I can tell they're all just human. But wait, we can back up here. The attractiveness bit doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's adult only, and that means. You think I'm a sub-person like human children? I ask, equal parts dumbfounded and offended. Xavier jerks with surprise. I've noticed he's always extra expressive, often putting his whole body into demonstrating emotions other humans would accomplish with just an eyebrow or two. Yo, Lark, he says with uncharacteristic seriousness. You can't call kids sub-people. That's fucked up. Sorry. How about pre-person, then? No. Xavier insists. Children are people. Are they? I press. Humans are born literally incapable of complex thought. Babies are useless, gross, and terrifyingly fragile. And a human my age isn't really much better. Like, sure, most of them can walk and talk, but the difference between a 2-year-old human and a 20-year-old human isn't just a lack of experience. The 2-year-old is literally incapable of thinking on the same level, or in the same way. You treat children as lesser beings because of this. You have a whole word for talking to someone like they're a child, and it's an insulting thing to do to someone. Unless that person actually is a child, because children cannot understand why they should care. Xavier opens his mouth, then closes it and shakes his head. Okay, I mean, you're not wrong, he admits. But children are still included in the definition of person. They're just mentally undeveloped people. So is that what you think I am? I ask. Mentally undeveloped? An idiot? A child? I might not know everything you know, but I'm not a kid. I'm not human, Xavier. I didn't hatch as a mindless blob that needed constant care to avoid death. I don't take an unimaginably long time just to gain a couple inches of height, and I definitely don't have to hear or see something 20 times before I remember it. I was outgrowing childhood before I was a year old. Humans are just slow. I'm getting angry, I realize. I can feel my instincts clawing at the back of my mind, tempting me to demonstrate my rage with tooth and claw. I take a slow breath, deliberately forcing those feelings down. Thankfully, Xavier helps by raising his hands in a placating gesture. Okay, you're right, he answers. Sorry. I definitely don't think you act like a kid, other than not knowing a bunch of stuff. But that's just like quirky ignorance, not immaturity. Though now that you bring it up, I wanna just confirm real fast that you remember your whole life? Like, from hatching? Because that blows my fucking mind. Language, I sigh. And I remember my life from before hatching, actually. My earliest memory is falling. The instinctive terror my body felt when I was dropped from Vigor woke me up, I guess. Which is good, because it means I hatched quickly enough to eat a little before the frenzy got going. What's the first thing you ate? Xavier asks, his eyes wide with that strange fascination that makes me wonder if he'd like me less if I was human rather than Vrothizo. Which is an uncomfortable feeling. My sister, I answer simply. When we landed, we were all just in a big pile of eggs, I guess. We all started eating each other the moment we hatched. I'm alive because I thought to run away rather than stay to eat, and because eating my siblings healed the wounds I got from the fall. Wow, Xavier breathes as I finally reach and knock on Captain Jelisavetta's door. Man, Vrothizo are so badass. I narrow my eyes at him, not that he can see behind my helmet. Why do you always seem so happy about that? I press. We're a serious problem, Xavier. Well sure, yeah, of course, Xavier agrees. But you can be a threat to humanity and still be really fucking cool and like, the abstract, white no. Think about it. You eat things and manifest their traits on your body, slowly mutating into an ever more powerful, ever more complex creature of vastly superior strength, speed, and in your case, intelligence. How is that not the coolest fucking thing in the world? I scowl, feeling myself start to get irritated. I hope Jelisaveta comes out of her room soon and gives me an excuse to leave. I hear her moving around inside, but she is not coming to the door. You don't have to live like this, Xavier, I remind him. I hate being a Vrothizo. It's freaking awful. He raises his hands placatingly again. Sorry, he answers. I'm not trying to trivialize your hardships or whatever. I didn't say it was fun and good for you, I said it was cool. I'm just biased that way, White. No. I've wanted a shape-shifting talent since I was like 11. Not that the talent I ended up with isn't great, it's just, well, not my first choice. At those words, the door to Captain Jelisavetta's room suddenly bursts open, the woman herself emerging with a blank expression. She doesn't look like she's in very good shape. She's been sleeping a lot since I met her, but if anything the bags under her eyes just seem to get deeper. Lark, she greets me with a gruff nod. Sorry to make you wait. To church. To church, I confirm, nodding back at her. Are you doing okay, Captain? Not really, but I'll live, she answers, rolling her shoulder. Thanks for asking. Why no, I gotta say, you're way more casual than I was expecting our future captain to be, Xavier comments, the three of us departing beside each other. I'm a lot better at making friends than I am at giving orders, Captain Jelisaveta explains, yawning. I don't think that's going to change just because they gave me a fancier helmet. Besides, as long as you take it seriously when I do give an order, that's what matters. Cool. Xavier grins, saluting lazily. Well, I look forward to serving under you, ma'am. MMHM, Jelisaveta mumbles. Just make sure you and your new boyfriend don't cause any problems, because then they become my problems. No teenage lover shit, no favoritism, no having sex in the dorm. I'll know. And if you break up, do it like adults. I'm weirdly offended by the fact that Xavier is, in that moment, far more terrified of the captain than he's ever been of me. Oh, Xavier stammers, blushing. Yes ma'am. Where is Bentley, anyway? I ask idly. Oh, he's going to his mom's church today, Xavier answers, shrugging awkwardly. It's like, halfway across the city. Ah, I nod. I also think I'm supposed to say congratulations, but I forgot. So, congratulations. He brightens right back up at that. Thanks. The church we go to isn't in the barracks, it's a public structure. It is very close to the barracks, however, so it's just a few minutes of walking before we enter the huge building where people in this part of the city gather for sermons. There must be hundreds of humans in here, which I found much too intimidating to be a part of until pretty recently. But Bentley encouraged me to attend alongside him and Xavier a couple weeks ago, and I've been joining them here ever since. I stand out a bit, being the only person who shows up in full armor, but it's a lot less attention than I'd be getting from the alternative. I've heard this stone building is designed to hold over 1,000 worshippers at once, but even in that context it seems ridiculously big. The ceiling is a full 200 feet above our heads, with very little between here and there other than the giant glass windows that dominate the walls. Ever since seeing it, I can't help but wonder why. Humans definitely can't grow that tall. Is it supposed to accommodate flying guests? It can't have anything to do with the function of the church itself. Preacher Gregory's church was smaller than a barn, and we had sermons in that without any problems. It's not actually required for Templars to attend church sermons, though since you have to get sponsored by a preacher to be one in the first place, nearly all Templars attend regularly. A large number of people from my barracks attend here, including all of my fellow trainees bar Melik. So after sitting down in one of the backmost pews and getting as comfortable as my armor allowed, I'm not terribly surprised to see Gina walking towards us. But I am very, very surprised to see Fulvia. My whole body freezes, shivering with wretched intensity. My loud one is back. My favorite meal. My body cannot vomit, but some part of the humanity I've acquired attempts a dry heave, the raw flood of emotion digging hooks into my mind, my throat, my stomach, and yanking it all at once. They brought her to me, my instincts sing, caring nothing for my pain. Look at her rejuvenated limbs. Soak in her stronger smell. I bet her flavor has healed just as well as the rest of her. And there's no flavor I know better than Fulvia's. Worse, my memories of her are entirely from when I was a child. From before I understood right and wrong, Before I was capable of guilt or empathy. Looking back at the situation, I certainly regret it. But the memories themselves are completely untainted by negativity. They are, in many ways, happier times. Times when I could torture and murder and feel only joy in the act. And the reminder that I used to be a creature that horrible and that I can never experience the purity of happiness again both crush me from different directions, leaving me a screaming mess inside the silence of my own mind. Xavier sits on my left, Captain Julie Salvetto on his other side. So it's Gina that takes the open seat to my right, Fulvia resting right next to her. There she is. My joy and regret, so tantalizingly, agonizingly close. My eyes start to water, and I do everything I can to focus on holding back the sobs. "Hey, Lark," Gina greets me coldly. "Hey, Gina," I whisper breathlessly, unable to look at either of them. Fulvia doesn't say anything, but her body is so tense, so afraid, so furious that there's no doubt in my mind she knows exactly who I am. I let my gaze wander in every direction but theirs, and end up locking eyes with Captain Julie Salvetto. She stares intensely at me for just a moment, then gives me a small smile, nodding ever so slightly. I don't know what that means, but somehow it makes me feel just a little less hopeless. Just a little, though. The preacher starts speaking about the virtue of community, and while I'll likely think back and re-listen to the contents later, I simply can't focus on it at the moment. A full hour drags agonizingly by, full of prayer, songs, and speeches about the glorious Mistwatcher. When it finally ends and people start dragging their way out of the building, I stand up and eagerly follow Captain Julie Salvetto off the pew. Gina catches the captain in a conversation, but I keep heading towards the door, hoping to at least not be in the same room as Fulvia anymore. Yet she does not, unfortunately, stop and wait with Gina. She heads right towards me, glowering with an unquenchable hatred. When she stops in front of me, out of all the horrible thoughts rushing through my head there's one that stands out at me, a feeling I haven't had in months. She's shorter than me, now. Nearly half a foot shorter. I've changed a lot, since we last saw each other. I shouldn't forget that. I thought she was just telling the world's worst joke, at first, Fulvia hisses softly. As much of a good friend she is, Gina's the type of stupid that might actually be the tactless, you know? She pauses for half a beat, as if she initially planned to wait for a response but thought better of it halfway through. Actually, do you know? She asks. What are you now, you freak? I want to see your face. She says we almost look like sisters. My former victim sneers. Tactless. Truly tactless. I swallow, half out of nervousness and half to try and chase away the memories of her flesh in my mouth. I'm not allowed to remove my helmet, I whisper. Sorry. Then we'll go somewhere private, she says simply. Gina is distracting your handler. Follow me. I don't even think about telling her no. Both my guilt and my hunger want me to obey. Not that I intend to give in to the latter, but it certainly makes things easier when both parts of me agree. We slip out of the church, just two more faces in the crowd. So, I say, following her down a twisting, jagged set of alleyways, Gina told you everything. I don't know if I'll believe it until I see your face, Fulvia answers. They'd already sent the team out to kill you when I woke up. The hunters reported a success, but here you are. You even feel different. My danger sense doesn't pick you up right. I blink, tilting my head with surprise. It doesn't? I ask. What do you mean? You feel weaker than you should, Fulvia says simply. I couldn't pick you out from any group of hunters, yet you're fast and strong enough to treat Gina like a baby. She pushes open a door, and the two of us enter a dark, partially dilapidated home. It's completely empty, and there's a large hole in the floor as if it had all caved in. I'm surprised you want to be anywhere near me, I admit. What I did to you was beyond unforgivable. I'm sorry. It means nothing, but I'm sorry. Helmet, Fulvia orders, closing the door behind us. Off. I don't know what she wants from me, and it doesn't really matter. I do as she says. I undo the helmet clasps and pull it off, giving my frizzy hair a shake and flicking my ears. Holy fucking shit, Fulvia breathes. You really did take my face. Or most of it. Your nose still looks like Ivan's. I remember that. She approaches, and I stay carefully still as she starts to slowly circle around me. You're real, she continues. You're actually alive, standing around in Templar armor like a damn fucking hero. I'm not really sure how to respond to that. Is there something you'd like from me? I ask hesitantly. Anything is fine. God, listen to you fucking talk, she growls. Air hissing between your teeth. I remember that dumb bitch teaching you words. I remember the way you try to sing, like a stupid little monster baby. I can't believe this. I can't fucking believe this. You're really here. I'm talking to you. I glance down, seeing her hands vibrating with fury, balled into fists. Would you like to hit me? I offer. I would like to kill you, Fulvia says plainly. And that's what makes this so fucked up. I'm a hunter. Killing monsters is my job. But I can't do it because the Templars will protect you. They're a little fucking pet project. I twitch my ears, a bit confused by that. That's not why she can't kill me, though. The Templars aren't even here. She can't kill me because she's too weak. I've learned enough from my interactions with Gina that I shouldn't tell a human that, though. Fulvia is quiet for a while, her anger festering in silence. I'm not sure what to do. My memories and impulses still scream at me to taste her again, but they've returned to the usual dull background roar I contend with constantly. I wouldn't have come here if I wasn't confident that I could avoid hurting Fulvia. But is there some way I can help? I am a monster, I say simply, agreeing with her words. I deserve worse than death for what I've done to you. But death hasn't come for me. So as long as I'm alive, I want to do good things. Not to make up for it, but just because that's what I've been taught. I can spend my time doing nothing. Or I can spend it doing good. And so many people in my life have promised I can, so I will. Somehow. I swallow. I'm starting to believe it, I admit to her. I won't hurt you again. I don't care, Fulvia answers bluntly, and punches me in the face. I see the attack coming. I could dodge it, but I don't. I let her fist connect right on my cheekbone, forcing me to stagger back and nearly fall to the ground. Shit, that actually really hurt. I guess now that I think about it, she fought with a gigantic miss when I first met her. She probably has a strength-enhancing tail. A second punch knocks my thoughts short, my head ringing from the blow as I collapse to the ground. She jumps on my chest, straddling me as I'm hit again, 3 times, 4 times. I clamp my jaw as tightly as I can, not wanting to risk her fist grazing my teeth and giving me a taste of her blood again. Yet my own blood starts to flow, thick and black down my face. And with every blow, every injury, my hunger roars louder. But I won't hurt her. I refuse. She wants to beat me? Fine. Watch her knows she deserves it. I feel her shaking from more than just the impacts, screaming with incoherent fury as tears stream down her face and salt my wounds. I hope this makes her feel better. I hope this helps. Please, watch her. Ease her suffering. Time seems to slow. Or perhaps speed up. Blow after blow hammers down on my face, cracking bone and drawing blood. Maybe too much blood. I feel myself getting woozy. Hungry. It's bad. This is bad. Stop, I say, moving up an arm to block her strike. She bats it aside, continuing her attack. Stop. I repeat more firmly, trying to grab her arms. But blood is stinging my eyes. I'm dizzy, and I need to bite her. No. No. I won't. I can't. I flail at her, trying to restrain her or knock her off, but my head is ringing and my senses are all messed up. There's such an easy way to fix that, too, if I just open my mouth and take it. I stretch my jaw out wide. Fulvia, I don't want to fight back. I yell at her. If I'm hurt too much, I'll lose control. Then do it. She screams. Bite me, you fucking freak. Give them a reason to put you down. Fulvia. You think I'm afraid of you? She raves. You really think, after every pound of flesh you've taken from me, I won't lose another arm to make sure you die for good? Do it, you monster. Do it. I have to grab her, hold her, stop her, but it's too hard. I can't web her up with my gauntlets on. She breaks free if I grab her. I can't block her attacks without being able to see. But I can kill her. That would be easy. She's straddling me. One punch and I could probably cave her skull in. Or, even better, I simply lean into the next fist and bite it off. Ah, what an exquisite experience that would be. I've eaten her upper arm dozens of times, but her hand. I only ever tasted that once. I should stop. A commanding voice shouts, the half-broken door to the house slamming inward. What the fuck are you doing? Stop. Oh. I recognize that voice. Captain Jelisaveta, an easy meal. It was so stupid of them to have her watch me. I'll just have her after No. I'm better than this. I will not give in to my hunger here. Not after so long. I've been doing so well. Over a year of living with humans and not hurting them. Over half my life. That means something. I'm better than this. Yet August was better than her, my hunger reminds me. And I still ate him. I was so angry at the time, so furious at someone so innocent. And the situation is reversed here. I'm not being rescued, I'm being attacked. I'm not better than this, not really. And even if I was, the loud one should know better. Out of the corner of my eye I see Captain Jelisaveta rush forward, but I've already lost my battle. Regret welling up before the action even completes, I open my jaws. Biting down on flesh, the red blood mixes with black. Chapter 135. Damn it, I thought I was being real fucking smart when I let Lark leave with that other woman. How do I keep fucking these things up? It was obvious that Gina was just distracting me so Lark could head off alone with what was almost certainly Fulvia. Unlike Site 4, documentation on Lark is thorough, and I'm well aware that 2 of her victims are alive in the city, and that one of them is a hunter, and that Gina was a hunter before joining the Templar training program. It's not really a big mystery. When probably Fulvia asked to take Lark away somewhere and see her face, I thought to myself, well, it'll probably be good for both of them to get some closure. It's not like I can't track them halfway across the city. Yet I guess my streak of catastrophically fucking up isn't quite over yet. I hear the sickening blows, the subtle sounds of shattering bone, and I'm instantly in panic mode. Fuck, I knew Lark was contrite, but I didn't think she was let her beat me to death contrite. Watch his eyes, she's suicidal, isn't she? Not in the stupid things that might get her killed way, but literally suicidal. Fuck, I fucked everything up again. She needs help. Follow me and catch the first alley cat you see, I snap at Gina, interrupting whatever it is she's been saying. Bring it with us. That's an order. WH. Gina blinks, dumbfounded. Have you never heard of a fucking order, trainee? I bark, already breaking into a sprint. Now. I focus on cycling power through my legs, per my enhancer training, as Gina sputters slightly before running after me. We're not that far out, I've made sure of it. It'll take me 30 seconds to reach Fulvia and Lark, tops. But 30 seconds is a long time to have your face beaten in, and every couple steps a sickening crack in my ears reminds me of that fact. Stop, I hear Lark plead. Stop. Her attacker doesn't. Rage starts to drown out my guilt, pushing me a little faster. Fulvia, I don't want to fight back. She yells. If I'm hurt too much, I'll lose control. Then do it. Fulvia screams. Bite me, you fucking freak. Give them a reason to put you down. Oh, no. No, this is all my fault. I misread Fulvia so hard. Damn it, I'm not a fucking mind reader. I shouldn't. No, I'm still sure she didn't have any murderous intent. This is a spur-of-the-moment thing, isn't it? one that I allowed to happen because I let a victim and her abuser in the same room, without supervision, like a fucking moron. I told them I wasn't cut out for leadership. No time for self-pity, though. I have to fix as much as I can. I make it to the abandoned home they're hiding inside, one of the many that still hasn't gotten fixed from the perception event 2 years ago. I boot down the door, shouting at them to stop, but of course they don't. The stench of Vrothizo blood and human fury mixes like acid in my nostrils, and I'm instantly reminded of the last time I fought a Vrothizo, the way my senses seized control of my brain at exactly the wrong moment and nearly got me killed. Sure enough, Lark has a wild, feral look in her eyes, and I fear the worst. To most people, her blood would probably be difficult to distinguish from her skin beyond the slightly glossier color, but my eyes easily make out the difference, and that's a lot of blood. On top of her head injuries, there's no way Lark is in a lucid state of mind. So it's horrible, but not terribly surprising, when she bites off Fulvia's hand just before I can reach the two of them. What's surprising is that Fulvia just rears up for another punch with that arm, the sheer teary-eyed fury on her face making it clear she has completely lost her senses. Not even the pain can snap her out of whatever she's going through right now. Or perhaps it's the pain that put her there. Doesn't matter. I'm there, and using all the momentum from Maron and all the enhanced strength I can muster, I grab her out of the armpits and throw her as far off of Lark as I can, sending her careening to the other side of the room. Unfortunately, Lark doesn't seem quite done, and I'm suddenly the closest meal option. Maybe I shouldn't call her Lark. The frenzied, bloodied beast twisting to lunge at me is not the polite, heartbreakingly depressed young girl I've been tasked to watch over. This is just a frightened, hungry animal, fighting for its life. In the instant before she tries to devour me alive, however, I find myself staring intently at her face. From the moment I first saw her, I found myself liking Lark's face. Human skin is disgusting for countless reasons, but the foremost problem is sweat glands. I absolutely despise sweat glands, the little holes that cough and vomit up foul-smelling fluid all over a person's body. Lark has a few sweat glands dotted here and there, but best I can tell they seem to be disappearing, sealing up and removing themselves from her body. Her face has none left, though, meaning all the water on it is clearly from her tears. She swallows most of Fulvia's hand, lips curling up in a red-stained grin before turning on me. Though while her mouth is smiling, her eyes are wet with terror. I watch, in those slow moments where my life is in danger and my senses snap to even more horribly precise extremes, as her tear ducts pour yet more fluid out as her injuries rapidly stitch themselves together. She's not crying from the pain. She's still in there. Cool, I guess I might survive this. The eternal moment passes, and the Vrothizo lunges at me, jaws open wide. I don't have a single fucking chance of dodging Lark for more than a second or two, so I don't bother. Praying to the Watcher, I do what I know her instincts will be all too happy to allow. I shove my hand right at her mouth, burying my arm as deeply into her throat as I'm able. Before my talent manifested, my family had a dog. His name was Boxers and he was the best. We used to play fight all the time, which would often involve him getting a little chumpy. Never enough to really hurt me, since Boxers and I were best friends, but we'd pretty seriously get into it, wrestling in the dirt and absolutely going at each other. The brilliant idea my dumb little brain came up with here is similar to something I used to do in order to win fights with Boxers: push my arm into his mouth on purpose and wedge it deep enough in there to prevent him from biting down. That move always ended in victory for me. Boxers would start gagging and give up immediately whenever I pulled it off. I don't know if Vrothizo can gag, but still. Have you ever stuffed so much in your mouth at once that you physically can't chew anymore? Biting down just becomes impossible because there's too much in the way? Yeah, that's the strategy here. Now if this sounds like a stupid idea in general and doubly so against a Vrothizo, well, that's because it absolutely is. For one, I'm not play fighting with Lark, she's seriously trying to kill me. For two, her teeth are magically ultra sharp. Just by grazing them on the entry, my arm is absolutely torn open, large gashes opening up on both sides of it. That's mostly okay, though, because I fully expect to lose it. I'm fighting a fucking Vrothizo, after all. My whole team struggled with the weaker ones than what Lark is reported to be capable of. So in my defense, I'd argue any plan that involves me getting horribly maimed isn't inherently stupid for that reason. Rather, any plan that doesn't account for the fact that I'm about to lose a limb at minimum is unrealistically optimistic. If I can gain an advantage by leaning into the inevitable here, I'm going to take it. Immediately, though, I run into a few problems. First, Lark apparently doesn't have a gag reflex. Even with her throat and one pipe blocked, she doesn't seem to give a single shit. Second, since her teeth can slide through bone like it's a gelatin dessert, she doesn't really have to worry about being unable to chew all that much. With enough struggling, she's going to shear my arm off anyway, as her teeth won't get stuck in my flesh if she jerks her head around. Third, once I stick my whole arm as deeply into her throat as I'm able, I feel my fingers disintegrate. Still, I press down on her lower jaw as much as I'm physically capable, desperately trying to keep her mouth open and my arm intact long enough to get a sentence or two out. "Fight it, Lark," I shout at her, forcing myself to form words instead of agonized screams. "You don't have to do this." And that's it. That's all I can do. Buy time long enough for the person I know is still there to get herself under control and hope she doesn't fucking kill us all. If I'm lucky, eating my arm will even help her out with that. The reports say she's insisted that food helps her resist her urges. And I believe her. I've known too many sociopaths and liars to think that she's either. That fact is little consolation to the screaming agony that is my arm, though. Pain, so much pain. And pain is a problem. My talent drastically increases the precision at which I can discern things my senses pick up, as well as drastically increasing the range of things my senses can pick up in the first place. It doesn't really make any individual sensation more intense, the intensity comes from the fact that I'm just constantly picking up so damn much all the time. I feel heat and cold much more precisely than I used to, for example, and can pick up even the slightest fluctuations in temperature. But I'm still comfortable in the same temperature ranges as before. Likewise, pain isn't any more painful than it was before my talent manifested. It's just a lot more precise. With horrid exactness, I feel every individual fracture and every individual wound. Each frayed tear of skin, each pulse of blood flowing outward, every movement of broken bone against bone. The knowledge of these sensations fills my mind to the brim. Already stacked up alongside tracking Gina's footsteps, monitoring Fulvia's heartbeat and breathing, analyzing every minute spent in the air and twitch of Lark's body, and every one of the thousands and thousands of competing signals from the cacophony of the city, all crowding for my attention even as I face what may be my death. I feel them start to reach a tipping point. But if they spill into my mind now, if I have an episode now, it will be far worse than the last Vrothizo I lost my mind to. I'm keeping her jaw open as best I can, but she's thrashing around, sawing her teeth through me. It won't be long before I lose enough of a muscle or tendon for this to all be over. "Come on, Lark," I beg her. "Come on, you brave girl. Come back to me." In response, she grabs my face, jerks her head, and tears my arm clean off. I feel the strain on every tendon and muscle fiber, the near-synchronous snapping of every bit of flesh unlucky enough to not be cleanly severed by a tooth, the ripping of skin, and the chalky crunch of what bits of bone still held together, vibrations running up my shoulder and down my rib cage. It probably says a lot about how fucked up my talent is that the sensation is a relief. Having one giant wound just below my shoulder is so much less of a mental load than having my whole arm covered in deep, asymmetrical gouges. Downside, she's now swallowing the rest of my arm, and crushing my face, and I don't have a grip on her anymore. What's with monstrous, stupidly strong girls and grabbing me by the face, anyway? This is really not something I expected to happen twice. Oh, wait a second, I'm probably bleeding to death. Fuck, What do I do here? I can feel the blood pumping out of my brachial artery. At its current rate I'll probably pass out in the next 15 or 20 seconds, so that has to come first. With my one remaining hand I flash through a simple kineticism spell to pinch the artery shut. Then I start one of the basic biomancy spells I know, trying to tuck my legs up underneath me to get a neon lark's neck to keep her on the ground. It doesn't work perfectly, but the more time it takes for her to swallow my arm, the more time I have before I get bitten again. I get we don't know each other that well, but I'm really fucking counting on you to come to your senses here, Lark. The Vrothizo bucks, and if not for the fact that she's still holding on to me I would have been flung clean off. It certainly knocks my knee off of her throat, though, and she swallows most of the rest of my arm in one gulp. Taking in a huge breath for the first time since I stuck it down there in the first place, the monster lets out a horrid wail, half bestial fury, and half human despair. Shit, time to sacrifice another limb, I guess. I need my other arm, though. Curling my toes up as much as I can, I stick the tip of my boot in her mouth and let her bite off, her teeth barely missing my foot. Stop talking to it like it's a person. Fulvia demands suddenly. Kill it. Why the fuck are you still here? I shout back at her. Get yourself to a healer. No. She shrieks, and the sound is so horrified and raw that I instinctively glance her way. Fulvia is panicking. Beyond panicking, really. Her mental state is as animalistic as the monster trying to kill me. No healing. She insists. Not until it's dead. I glance at her mangled, bloody hand, finishing up my own one-handed healing spell. Pushing down the distracting influx of sensations as my shoulder starts to knit itself back together, I glance at her mangled stump of a hand. Yep, she's definitely bleeding too much. Well, if you stick around here I'll heal you myself. I snap. Immediately, she and Lark both freeze. Holy shit, thank the Watcher, Lark stops moving. I keep my body tense, but her grip goes limp and her hand leaves my face. With another swallow, all the human flesh she has consumed finally finishes its journey to whatever passes for her stomach. A warring combination of avarice and blank horror spread across her face, slight twitches in her expression filling me with hope. Hey! I say excitedly. Hey, 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 hey. It's okay, Lark. You're okay, you got this. Her eyes squeeze shut, and I carefully get off her as she shakingly rolls to her side, curling up and starting to sob in earnest. Which, like no, on one hand. Poor Lark. On the other hand, I'm missing a hand. Ow fuck. The pain's honestly not so bad, though. If anything, the healing process is a lot more uncomfortable and distracting. That and the lightheadedness. Holy shit, do I need a nap? I'm okay, Lark, I whisper reassuringly, idly finding my free hand scratching behind her ears like I used to do with boxers. Which? Wow, I must be really out of it. I haven't willingly pet an animal since my talent manifested. Not that Lark is an animal, I just... the point is, it's no fun at all to be able to feel every individual hair, every mite and flea, every bit of dirt and gunk the animal hasn't cleaned out. At least I have a glove on, now. I feel like I should be using my hand for something else, though. Oh, shit. I have to heal. My thoughts are cut off when Fulvia tackles me from the side screaming bloody murder, which fucking figures. I'm knocked over, and I try to guard my head from the fall before suddenly remembering that I don't actually have an arm on that side of my body anymore. My head slams into the stone floor, leaving me reeling. And to cap all this shit off, this is the moment that Gina finally picks to enter. Hey, I got the cat or what? Watcher's tits. Restrained Fulvia. I order her, and to her credit she actually does that. Without even dropping the hungry-looking scraggly alley cat she has in one hand. That's cool. Very cool. Also, I'm getting her ass kicked out of the trainee program for this shit. I lie on the floor for a bit, listening to the choked sobs coming from the girl who just swallowed my arm and trying to figure out how the fuck to salvage this situation. It's my job, after all, to ensure Lark is loyal and fighting fit for whatever it is the top brass want her for. More importantly than that, however, is the fact that I'm responsible for a young girl going off alone with someone dangerous and having her face beaten in. I'm like her guardian now. It's not like she has parents, anyway. Watcher, I'm not qualified for this. Why do these things keep happening? It's not super difficult for Gina to get Fulvia under control, though she does wail and curse when she's forced over to me so I can make sure she doesn't bleed to death. You're welcome, I guess. I get it, she just had an intensely traumatic episode after being reunited with her abuser. I have sympathy for that. But she lost control after confronting that abuser on purpose, going out of her way to be alone with them, and that confers on her some responsibility for going absolutely apeshit. She was clearly not ready for this. Whatever. I've done what I can for her. I just have one more responsibility here. Regretfully picking myself up off the cold stone, I scoot over to Lark. The poor girl is still sobbing in a ball, though I can hear her running her tongue over her teeth as if trying to clean them. Well, Trini, I drawl tiredly, you were wrong. I totally stopped you. She ignores me and continues to cry. That didn't go over well, I guess. I motioned Gina to me, instinctively trying to hold my arm out to request the cat, and manually needing to do that with my other arm instead. Fuck, that's surreal. She hands the cat to me, which Gina rendered unconscious somehow. She must have guessed what I wanted it for. You need anything else to eat, Lark? I ask her plainly. She shakes her head no with a rapidness that borders on desperation. Okay, that's fine, I tell her. But I want to double check here, because I know you've said that getting fed enough helps you stay in control, and I think right now you might not be thinking completely straight about whether you should be eating more. So if you can, really give yourself a proper once-over, okay? She draws in a few deep, shaky breaths, giving me an answer about 10 seconds later. I should eat, she admits quietly. I nod, handing the cat over to her. She sits up and takes it gingerly in her hands, staring at it with utter self-loathing for a moment before bringing it up to her mouth. With startling precision, she bites off all 4 of its legs and its tail in rapid succession. She then swallows, shoves as much of the head and shoulders into her mouth as she can, and bites it off as well, placing what's left of the now dead torso on the ground next to her. The whole thing takes maybe 2-3 seconds. I watch as bits of anima fall down her throat alongside the flesh, noting how small they are even compared to the already tiny cat's soul. It's relieving, and a quick glance at my own soul confirms it has taken very little damage. Thank the Watcher. Curling her knees up and resting her face against them, Lark continues sobbing. I leave her alone, my brain moving far too sluggishly from the adrenaline drop and blood loss to come up with the right words to say. Instead, my gaze meets Fulvia, who is no longer frantically raving and screaming. Instead she just glares at Lark and I with open hatred. It's fucking with you, she hisses. It's not a person. It's a sadistic monster that learned how to talk. I glance over at Lark again briefly before meeting Fulvia's gaze again, checking the part of her very few others can see. I see her soul, a sphere like a cracked blanket, smelling of fresh wood, somehow soft yet brittle. It looks, inarguably, like a human soul. Nothing like the non-humans at sight for, or how I've been told of Rothai's soul appears. Maybe so, I admit. I'm no mind reader. But the thing is, maybe she's not. Maybe she's just a scared girl fighting with every ounce of her strength to not be the monster that hurt you. Maybe the things she did when she was just a few months old aren't who she is now. You don't know anything, Fulvia insists. You weren't there. You didn't get tortured over and over, day after day, body and soul violated over and over until I no longer knew who I was. There is nothing that can do that to a person and not be a monster to the core. Well, I think cores can change, I answer. Which kind of sucks, because it would be so much simpler if they couldn't. It's much more convenient, much more black and white to lay people out as good or evil, humane or monstrous, and guiltlessly punish the wicked. But that is not what the Watcher teaches us. People can change. People deserve an opportunity to return to the community, better than they were before their crimes. Punishment without rehabilitation is nothing but cruelty. But most people don't change, Fulvia growls. You really think a monster is going to? I shrug, startling myself at the lack of weight hanging from my shoulder. Most people don't have the right kind of help, I counter. But somewhere in her life, I think Lark did. Stop defending me, Lark whispers. I carefully don't react to that, but inside words twist my intestines into knots. No, I tell her, pouring into the word every ounce of conviction I can muster. She looks up, wet eyes wide with confusion. I bit off your arm, she reminds me. You did indeed do that, I admit, nodding. If only we knew, say, the most powerful biomancer in the country. Any idea how we could get an appointment with her? She stares at me in utter incomprehension, ears flat against the top of her head. How? How are you so calm? Because I wake up every morning in a more stressful situation than this, and the elation of not slipping back into that during the middle of this confrontation is almost more exciting than the fact that everyone survived. Because the intense pain in my shoulder is really just another sensation, and I've been learning to ignore those for so long that it barely registers? Because this entire situation is my fucking fault to begin with for not doing my job, and until it's over I will keep a brave face up for as long as you need one? All of those things are true, but none of them seem like a good answer to give at the moment. Lots of experience, I say instead. Believe it or not, I've been on more harrowing assignments than taking care of a kind young girl who offers to let people beat the shit out of her in hopes of making them feel better. You don't know anything, she whispers. I'm not kind. I wanted to. I know a lot more than you think I know, I say, cutting her off. I hear more and see more than you're aware of. Do you want me to get mad about my arm? Well, sorry, I don't really have the energy for it. It's way fucking easier to just say I forgive you. Fuck you, Fulvia hisses. Fuck you both. Okay, well, she doesn't agree, I drawl teretely. Which is fair. You probably don't deserve forgiveness on that one, but you don't really need it either. I think. Shakily, I try to stand up. Whoa, nope, way too light-headed for that. I sit back down. Lark, put your helmet back on. Gina, go get more Templars. And? A medical professional. Or two. I don't know. I think I'm going to pass out soon. G-night, everybody. I lie down then, because may as well get comfy, right? Floor comfy. Wow, I'm out of it. Don't start another fight while I'm out, okay? I yawn, hearing the words come out of my mouth slurred and slow. Only got one more arm. I'm not sure exactly when I fall asleep, but I'm not enough of a coherent person to worry about it when I wake up. Filter, filter, filter. Sterile smells, numb body, multiple synchronized heartbeats, 0 outside sounds. I come back to myself far faster than usual, as wherever I am just doesn't seem to have much for my senses to latch onto. With, of course, the exception of First Lady Penelope Vesuvius. Did she set up silencing spells around where I'm resting to help me wake up? I open my eyes, and sure enough she is there, waiting for me to do just that. She smiles like a viper, though I instinctively give a soft smile right back. Sup, I grunt. She chuckles, grinning wider and showing off her pointed teeth. Hello to you too, Inquisitor Captain, Penelope answers. How are you feeling? Good question. How am I feeling? Mostly numb, so. Pretty great, all things considered. I decide. I wish I could wake up inside whatever sensory deprivation thing this is every morning. How's the kid? Lark? Penelope asks, tilting her head. She's perfectly fine. Physically, anyway. She's obviously distraught, but entirely returned to her senses. Now, let's see if we can say the same about you, A slew of standard medical tests follow that up, and Penelope eventually concludes that yes, except for my arm, I'm healthy enough to function. After slurping down a bunch of largely tasteless nutrient goop, I'm pretty sure she made it tasteless specially for me, which is very nice of her. I'm feeling a lot better in general. Right, so, down to business, Penelope says, and I focus on her immediately. In your honest opinion, what would happen if Lark and Vida fought? I blink in surprise. It's an odd but simple enough question, I suppose. Lark would probably get her ass kicked. Even if she could kill that ridiculously tough girl, Vida's a lich, so she could just steal a nearby. No, wait. Lark's bite deals a frighteningly large amount of soul damage. I'm certain of that. I think. I quickly flick through the soul sight spell onto the covers of the cot with my one remaining hand, checking my own soul. Oh yeah, wow. I'm surprised I can function with that big chunk bitten out of it. If Lark had gotten more than one limb, I probably couldn't have woken up. I think it could be legitimately dangerous for Vida, I admit. Lark's bites are scary, anima-wise. It'd be dangerous for Lark too, though. Vida is terrifyingly strong. I see, Penelope muses, her lips pursed as she watches me carefully. Well, that's somewhat good news, I suppose. Lark is being groomed as our anti-lich weapon, so your superiors will be happy to know that their operation has a good shot at success as long as Lark gets proper support. I raise my eyebrows with surprise. You know about lacays, Lady Vesuvius? I ask. Something about the question feels odd to me, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Of course, she answers easily. I'm a first lady. We were all briefed about the situation with Vida and ours recently. Dreadful stuff. It's increasingly fortunate we have Lark, isn't it? I suppose so, I hedge. As far as I'm concerned, we should probably just leave Vida alone, but I doubt that's a welcome opinion to go spreading around more than I already have. I just hope everyone ends up okay. I should go give my debriefing, probably. Oh, no you don't, Lady Vesuvius chides. You should rest in bed. 3 days bed rest, no less. You're still healing. It's not like I need 2 arms to report to my superiors, I point out. But don't think I didn't notice your fingers moving under there, Inquisitor. Be honest, how much of your soul is missing right now? I wince. Like, a quarter of it. A fifth. Bed rest, Lady Vesuvius orders. I'm no animancer, but it doesn't take one to know that's not healthy. I'll pass along anything urgent to Templar Command, if you have it. I'll give you my clearance papers if you need to see them. Yes ma'am, I sigh. I'll make sure Lark is taken care of in the meantime, she promises. You did well today, Captain. I don't feel like I did, I admit. I'm responsible for getting Lark into the situation where she was forced to lose control. And you got her back out of it with only minor casualties, Penelope insists. And that is what your superiors are going to see. You just proved Lark isn't a disaster waiting to happen. That she isn't one drop pin away from a massacre. Even better, you did it while containing the information breach at the cost of your own safety. That's the angle I'll be pushing to those above you, and you've earned the praise you'll get for it. None of that makes me feel better. I sigh, suddenly exhausted once again. Honestly, I almost wish they'd just fire me at this point, I admit. We can't have that I'm afraid, Penelope answers soothingly. You're simply much too useful. Chapter 136 I hum a slow song to myself as I move through the upper floor of my home, touching up every last speck of dust. I'm always trying to keep busy, but unfortunately there's just not much cleaning to do when the house is empty. Theodora, Margaret, and precious Vitamin all left to live in the forest with their true love, and I hardly blame them for it. I'm jealous, actually. But all 3 of them are exceptionally messy, not to mention exceptionally good friends, leaving my days full of things to do and people to do them with when they were here. I'm not used to how lonely the house is without the others. Thankfully, I don't have to wallow in the emptiness for long as a chime sounds throughout the house, alerting me that my lady will be home in approximately 15 minutes. Yay! I burst into action, rushing down to the kitchen to start a meal and a pot of tea, noting every imperfection in the house along my path and logging it in my memory to clean up later. With the food and drink started, I quickly take a detour to charge and repair the heating room for the bath, the impromptu melody of my private performance accelerating into a more and more jubilant tune the closer I know my lady is to arriving. I felt such pride when Theodore declared me a skilled enough metamancer to handle the house's rune system on my own. Being a mage is a far greater accomplishment than anything he could attest to. One last thing to take care of before she gets here, then. I look down at myself, pushing away the instinctive surprise and horror that still takes up unwanted space in my mind after nearly 2 years. They are his memories, his feelings. Not my own. I am Nuga's, the man I was made from is dead, and though his ghost still haunts me it grows weaker by the day. I, personally, love my body. My soft, pale skin, my short stature, my beautiful breasts, my gleaming sapphire eyes, the way my body curves and flows, the thin layer of fat barely hiding the powerful muscles I've been given. These things bring me joy not just because they were perfectly sculpted by my lady, though the simple thought of that makes me squirm with delight, but also because they are quintessentially me. The man in my memory hates them, fears them, and so it is with them I stamp out his last embers. This is a large part of why I dress myself in such revealing ways, even though my lady clearly wants me to stop. The other reason I do it is because she wants me to stop. I quite love seeing her flustered. It's a sinful delight. Anyway, I need to choose an outfit for her arrival, and I find that's best done with the assistance of a mirror. A temporary mirror, obviously. Metal mirrors are expensive and wasteful, especially since I can maintain a person-sized kinemancy mirror using runes on my own. Runes are lovely things, capable of holding and running spells all on their own. Metal is largely useless until it's carved into the shape of a rune, at which point it constantly performs whatever spell it is sculpted to be. Metamancy runes are nearly identical to this, except that unlike metal they both run out of power and degrade. Metal is inherently sturdy and automatically draws in mana by its very nature, but metamancy runes have neither of these advantages. They must have extra mana included as part of their construction which they then burn to perform their effect, and they tend to degrade in just a few days without upkeep from a trained metamancer. So, in essence, while metal can be used by anyone, a metamancer is required to make use of runes. And I am a metamancer. I'm also very sexy, and I take a moment to appreciate that some more in the mirror I made while figuring out how best to taunt my lady with the fact. The problem, ultimately, is that Lady Vesuvius isn't particularly attracted to women in the general case. She's attracted to Vita, and her attraction to me stems from how I was made to look identical to her. Well, minus the extra eyes and the elbow tentacle and the buzz cut and the tangible layer of grime and the complete lack of fashion sense and the inability to express emotion and the permanent resting bitch face. But supposedly, I look just like her. By that reasoning, being maximally seductive would involve fewer comically revealing outfits and more Vita-ness. My lady has confessed to me in private that part of what makes my creation such a mistake is that Vita's appearance never truly mattered. It was the feeling of being so known and yet still accepted, the vulnerability of having her mask removed and not coming to harm, that ultimately made her fall in love. So I think I could certainly trigger an instinctive arousal if I mussed up my hair and started looking at everything with a completely blank expression. But ultimately I don't want her to love me as a sexual surrogate for her girlfriend. I want her to love me as Nugas. I want her to know that being the result of her worst tendencies doesn't mean I'm incapable of accepting her despite them. I'm not just a thing. I'm real. I'm so distracted with these thoughts that I run out of time to actually decide on an outfit, so I settle on some string monstrosity that is so little fabric a nudist would consider it risque. It's not a very exciting choice, but it's a classic. I then head downstairs and finish all the preparations necessary to get everything cooking just before my lady arrives, then go to wait for her just outside our teleportation arrival chamber. I keep the oven mitts on, because the contrast between the heavy, heat-protective fabric and the rest of what I'm wearing highlights the latter. And more importantly, it amuses me greatly. Then, with a rush of energy, she's there. My very literal reason for existing. First Lady Vesuvius. Over the time I've known her, she's gradually become taller and more heavy-set, a purposeful decision both to accentuate her voluptuousness and give her more space with which to add customized organs into her body. As usual, her outfit is a fashionable mutation of militaristic dress style, light armor fitted over her body in ways that sacrifice slight amounts of practicality here and there but still provide ample protection. Lady Vesuvius is a noble of action, after all, and her outfit is carefully crafted to support that image. Her golden eyes flick towards me immediately, their jagged, vertical pupils shrinking slightly to accommodate the change in lighting. "Welcome home, Lady Vesuvius," I greet her warmly, unable and unwilling to hide the smile on my face. "Nugas," she nods directly, stepping towards and then past me. Her pace implies urgency. Her expression is distracted. She's caught up in thinking about a problem. So there's only 2 places she's likely to go and she's headed the wrong way for the bath. "Shall I take your tea to the study, my lady?" I ask. "Yes, please," Penelope confirms. "Thank you, Nugas." I beam, her words sending a rush of joy out from my heart and through the tip of every limb. "It is my pleasure, Lady Vesuvius," I assure her. And it truly is. I already feel my mood improving drastically as a result of Lady Vesuvius' presence. When I was first created, when I stopped being a man rejecting my name and became Nugas in truth, everything reversed. I no longer spent the days in my cell in agony, fearing the moment my lady would arrive. Instead I spent them in anticipation, yearning for the burst of joy that fills my body on the sight of her. The effect has dampened over time, but that just makes it feel more natural. More me. I regretfully break off from her path, heading to the kitchen to retrieve the tea and a few light snacks to tide her over until the meal is ready. Then I'm off to her study, where I find her rapidly scribbling out plans and contingencies over multiple pieces of paper that span nearly her entire desk. My lady's study is always exceptionally tidy. Lady Vesuvius herself is by far the least messy member of the household, after myself, but this is partially due to the general barrenness of the area. Certainly, she has bookshelves full of reference material, and her desk is outfitted with a wide variety of different writing materials, rooms to adjust the heat of the room, and a dozen other practicalities and comforts. The only truly personal object, the one thing that serves no purpose other than aesthetic, is a preserved human eye. Its sclera is white like a normal human's, but its iris is the same brilliant blue as my own. "Your tea, my lady," I announce, placing it down on the small table next to the desk designated for food. "Thank you, Nugas," she answers without looking up. I flush with joy again, though this time it's tempered with a bit of worry. "Are you all right, Lady Vesuvius?" I ask. "You're being unusually polite today." "Yes, Nugas, everything's." She starts automatically, then trails off, blinking with confusion once before looking up at me. "Does me saying thank you make you assume something is wrong?" she asks incredulously. "Yes, my lady," I nod. "You're always more polite when feeling particularly contrite. Have you done something you regret?" She stares at me for a moment, then lets a huff of air out of her nose. "Today?" she asks dryly. "I suppose it's yet to be determined. L'Arcangeli Savetta ended up in my office today, the latter missing an arm and a chunk of soul thanks to the former. Which left me needing to make a snap decision about the decontamination protection plan." "Ah." I frown slightly, nodding with understanding. "So you modified her memory with animancy, I conclude." "I did indeed," Penelope sighs. "How could I not? It was the perfect opportunity. She can't reveal my crimes under decontamination if she doesn't know about my crimes anymore. But removing memories would leave obvious, easily noticeable chunks of her soul missing. Unless, of course, it's expected for her to be missing parts of her soul due to a Vrothizo attack," I finish for her as she trails off. "Yes, that makes perfect sense. But when you try to remove my memories, I simply got them back when my soul healed because they are still contained within my brain." "What changed?" "Former Inquisitor Captain Manus," Lady Vesuvius explains. "He showed me how to make it permanent. Permanent memory alteration leaves a permanent mark on the soul, however, because it doesn't remove the memories from the brain, It merely blocks the person from thinking about them. But Jelisaveta already has a memory-blocking mark on her soul, and the Inquisition already knows about it. I co-opted that one easily enough. Clever, my lady, I beam. Now that you're able, you wouldn't be planning to remove any of my memories, would you? She stares at me for a moment like I've grown a second head. No, she promises with a weight of finality. Never. Oh. That's unfortunate. I struggle to hide my disappointment as I change the subject. Well, as convenient as it is, this still seems like a situation where a lot could go wrong, I say. It relies a bit too much on the incompetency of your enemies. And enemies are always at their most competent when you're relying on them to not be. Yes, Lady Vesuvius grumbles. I know. Which is why I'm here, working out possibilities and contingencies. I didn't have a lot of time to make the decision, but an imperfect solution to the likelihood of decontamination during what is basically the Second Ars crisis is better than no solution. I nod agreeably, waiting to see if she'll continue without prompting. She doesn't, though, burying her nose back in her work. Normally, that would be my cue to leave, but at this point I have to admit to myself that she won't open up to me if I'm just polite and patient. I have to be the one pushing forward. So what part of that makes you regretful, Lady Vesuvius? I ask. She looks up again, clearly a bit surprised. Good. See me as more than your expectations, my lady. Please. She doesn't respond at first, going back to her work, but her expression remains changed. She's thinking about it. So. I wait. Eventually, she does speak. My goals are good, she says softly. I don't just believe that, I know that. I want to allow people to live as long as they want, in whatever body they choose, free from sickness and age. I want this country to be a beacon of progress, free from the incompetent, greedy hands that drag it downwards. My goals are good. But I'm not. She stops writing again, looking up at me. I will hurt as many people as I have to in order to make these dreams a reality. And for anyone else that would require an intense conviction, a zealotry, but I don't have that. I'm just incapable of feeling empathy for my victims in a normal way. So what if? What if the real reason I'm doing this isn't because it's good at all? What if it's just a larger scale version of you? I sit down in the chair across from her desk, crossing my legs and puffing out my chest a little. Not for any real reason, it's just a habit I've developed for getting her attention. Well, my lady, I'd certainly prefer you not transform vast swaths of vodka into biological copies of your girlfriend, if that's what you mean. I know that's not what she means. She gives me an annoyed look, to which I respond with a bright smile. I mean in the sense that I'm doing it to feel productive and beneficial for society, when in actuality it's just an excuse for me to indulge my worst impulses. I don't know how to tell the difference anymore. Or I suppose I never did, I just thought I did. Which means I probably shouldn't be in charge of any of this. But at the same time, I still believe it needs doing and I don't trust anyone else to do it. I nod slowly. Is this about Penta? I ask. She flinches. Watches eyes. You're feeling blunt today. Yes, it's about Penta. It's about everything else too, but yes. That shook me. I was looking forward to torturing her for so long. That's what made me willing to see her revived again in the first place. But it just... well, it was fun, but ugh. She shakes her head. I don't know why I'm telling any of this to you, she sighs. You'll just agree with me whenever you think I want you to and disagree whenever you think I don't. I hold back my urge to flinch, but the words cut deep. How could she have made me herself and yet still not understand? I'm not like that. Perhaps I was, once. But I've grown. Lady Vesuvius, you think too little of yourself, I chide. You made me loyal, certainly. But you did not make me stupid. I love you. I exist for you. And I will gladly say things you don't want to hear if doing so would serve you best. She gives me a calculating stare, the kind that peels me apart and makes my heart try to burst from my chest. You can do that, can't you? She eventually concludes. You've been doing it. Why didn't I notice? You don't enjoy paying me much mind, Lady Vesuvius, I say. You prefer to reap the benefits of my presence without acknowledging me. Which, well, I don't always mind. There's a simple satisfaction of bringing joy to my lady without even being noticed. Making sure that everything is in its proper place, improving her life with so many small details she never notices them. Ah! I just love her so much. How could I not take pride in that? But I'm greedy. I want more. So I have to change. I have to be the type of person she wants, and that's not just a sycophant. A bit of independence is required to serve her better. I know this. I've seen it. I always pay very, very close attention to what my lady does. She sighs, glowering half-heartedly. Well then, she grumbles, are there any other insights into my character you'd like to share at this juncture? Altering Jelisavetta's memories prevents a major problem in the short term, I conclude. But in the long term, the Inquisition is very likely to discover it. It is, as you said, the second Ars crisis. Bans on certain animancy research topics are likely to be lifted, and Jelisa will want to get her memories back, no matter how traumatic. I agree, Lady Vesuvius sighs. It's a solution that will likely only last a few months. At minimum, foul play will be suspected whenever it's discovered that Lark's bites can't deal enough soul damage to create the symptoms Jelisaveta will show. So to that end, well, there is a single step forward that solves nearly all of my major problems at once, including this one. It's just, well, frighteningly desirable. And what's that? She licks her lips idly, then looks me in the eye, failing to suppress a small smile. Well, frankly, I can't help but think it's past time that I kill. Before I can respond, a chime sounds out through the home, indicating that someone else has appeared in the teleportation arrival chamber. Well, would you look at that, they're here, Lady Vesuvius mumbles. Not sure if this is great timing or terrible. I stand up and immediately move to receive the guests, glancing back at Lady Vesuvius long enough for her to tell me where to lead them. Dining room, she tells me. Let's get them fed and happy. I nod, hurriedly but not ignobly, heading back to the arrival chamber to meet two people I privately wish would just break up. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem very likely. Hello, Sky, I say with perfect professionalism. Hello, Capita, I continue with much more genuine warmth. The pair of them, which in some ways is a trio, but still only contains two people, knew to wait politely for me, so I'm pleased to find them still in the middle of the chamber. Sky hovers with a bored expression on his face, though his eyes flick around my body as if trying to remove what little clothing I'm actually wearing. For his part he wears his usual satire of noble clothes, an expensive, likely stolen suit with its buttons mostly undone, its collar ruffled, its cuffs unfolded. It's a wretched, purposefully offensive mess. Capita, for her part, dresses much more nicely, in that she's actually wearing a pair of identical yellow warm-weather dresses, which is unusual for her. The dresses, anyway, not the fact that they're identical. Capita always dresses both of her bodies with exactly the same outfit, and will frequently fiddle with her clothing to ensure that both sets are ruffled, wrinkled, tucked or untucked in exactly the same places. I once saw her spill tea on herself by accident, then immediately her other body spilled tea in precisely the same place, on purpose, and she was still distraught that the stains weren't the same. Nougas. Capita beams, rushing forward to hug me with both of her bodies. How is my favorite honorary sister? I'm doing quite well, Capita, I answer, returning the hug with one of her in each arm. It has been a bit lonely without my revenant friends, though I still talk with them regularly. And Margaret has nearly perfected the teleportation circle, so I will be able to visit soon. Ah! That is wonderful. Capita beams, squeezing me tightly. I was worried you'd be stuck here with me gone. Gone? I ask, tilting my head. Where are you going? That's what we're here to talk with Penelope about, Sky grunts. So if you could just take us to her. I don't glower at the rude floating man, because Capita likes him and my former self did not, which are both excellent pieces of evidence that he can't be all bad. I cannot for the life of me understand what his redeeming qualities might be, but that is an issue for later. He is, either way, expected by my lady, so I lead him to the dining room without complaint, ignoring his leers. Capita and Sky are here to see you, my lady, I announce, as if she didn't already know that. But her mask is on, now, so there are routines to follow. Ah, welcome. Lady Vesuvius beams, sitting at the head of the table. It's been too long, both of you. Would you like something to eat? To drink? We're just here to tell you that we are leaving Vodka, Sky dismisses. Today. Lady Vesuvius looks shocked, and I for one can't tell if it's fake or not. I certainly am. Huh? Well. If this is to be our final meeting, I have to insist on sending you off properly, Lady Vesuvius stutters. Nugas, would you kindly prepare some lashara tea? Of course, Lady Vesuvius, I agree, bowing slightly. I also have a duck nearly ready to come out of the oven, if you were interested. Please, would you? My lady coos. You're a doll, Nugas. I give the tiniest, context-appropriate chuckle, and immediately head off to do as I'm told. Which, in this case, means activate the anti-teleportation runes. Lashority is the code phrase for that. Though I'll also actually make some, because why not? Sky may not be able to tell the difference between Lashora and slow brewed Amos, but the tea I made earlier isn't fresh anymore, so I'm not serving it. I still can't believe that thing used to be Dominic, Sky mutters after I'm outside the room, and my whole body freezes. Recognition. Revulsion. Hatred. Fury. That's not my name. That's his name, and he is dead. I'm Nugas. Nugas. He hated my name when Lady Vesuvius gave it to him. It was part of his torture, after all. Nugas is a word, not a name in any traditional sense. It means toys. Playthings. It's a name chosen to dehumanize, to draw out fires of indignance so they could be stumped into despair. Nugas, she would call out to him, her voice dripping with sultry implications. It's time for your treatments, Nugas. You'll be a good little girl, won't you? Oh, how he would scream at first, wail and cry as the first parts of me were formed out of his unworthy flesh. How he bemoaned his dick shriveling away over a tende, never shutting up about it even as the deep, hollow agony of his bones expanding, shrinking, and reshaping themselves caused far more physical pain. How he feared all the ways she might touch his body, up until he realized how much he wanted her to and feared that instead. How he started completely losing hope when he knew she was breaking him, and that I was clawing free from the cracks. And eventually, I ripped him apart. Shaking my head, I start walking again, furious at myself for stopping in the first place. Just the name of a dead man shouldn't cause me this much discomfort after 2 years. Despite its meaning, I like the name Nugas. My lady gave it to me, after all. I just wish she was willing to finish her toy. To remove the last of him from my mind. I want to be rid of him completely. I want to be entirely hers, even in memory. There is nothing I hate more than my memories of hating her. Even if that wasn't ever me. Sky. Capita chides, and I hear the dull thwack of him being lightly smacked. She is not a thing. And that's not her name, Lady Vesuvius adds. I'm far from the room at this point, but my lady designed my senses well. You of all people should know better, Capita continues. Excuse me. Sky growls. Penelope's creepy maid and I are not the same. I have always been a man, I didn't get mind-fucked into it by a horny teenager with sex-change magic. Oh, you have a problem with my sex-change magic, do you? Lady Vesuvius asks blandly. I can always turn you back, if you like. And are you saying someone that is mind-fucked isn't as good as someone who has always been the way they are? Capita hisses dangerously. There's a pause of silence as Sky takes a moment to fully soak in how completely screwed he is, which I enjoy from a distance as I activate the runes that will trap him and Capita in this manner. Okay, Sky eventually says. I can admit when I've made a titanic mistake. Statement withdrawn. I'm just saying, it's always weird to think about. Be that as it may, I'll thank you not to say that name in this household, Sky, Lady Vesuvius insists firmly. She can hear you, you know. Wait, really? Yes. There's another pause. Fuck, Sky ultimately concludes. Indeed. He's lucky I'm too good a host to spit in his tea. I suppose if there's one thing on which I can agree with Dominic, it makes me feel awful just to think his name. It's that Sky deserves what's coming to him. I truly hate the man. And not just because he's had sex with Lady Vesuvius. Though that doesn't help. That all aside, Lady Vesuvius deftly transitions. It's sad to hear you're leaving. May I ask why? Because the artist lives, Capita hisses. He seeks me. He wants me to serve him again. I won't. We're done with all this shit, Vesuvius, Sky sighs. We just want a safe place to live our damn lives, you know? We're just gonna hole up, be together, maybe White no. Start a family, Capita whispers. I walk into the room carrying the tea just in time to see Lady Vesuvius' eyebrows raise with surprise. Oh, are you planning to? No, she corrects herself. This is too sudden to be a future thing. Capita, are you pregnant? Each of Capita's buddies nervously glance at the other, then at Sky. Yes, I suppose I would be nervous as well if Sky was about to be responsible for raising my child. I suppose I probably can bear a child, if I wanted to. That's odd. And a bit uncomfortable. I've never really thought about it before. Not that it matters, of course, since I only want to bed my lady. I voice none of these thoughts, of course, as I'm quite busy passing out the tea. We think so, yes, Capita admits hesitantly. We're not sure, but, well, we want to be, so. May I ask which of your bodies? Penelope requests curiously, leaning forward a little. Or is it both? Capita fidgets some more. And no. Not both. Repulsion has it. We think. That would be the title of the body with teleport others and chaos implosion talents, when Capita is separate from herself. Likewise, the body that can teleport itself and create a jet of chaotic energy is titled evacuation. Though we use the terms sparingly, given how she prefers to simply be Capita. I can certainly relate. Well, that's probably a wise decision, especially if the two of you are planning to live alone, Lady Vesuvius murmurs. One baby is more than enough to handle on its own. Although, you're worried about the differences between your bodies, aren't you? The most obvious visible changes won't start for a while, but if you absolutely need it I can certainly figure out a way to get your other body to match. Though that will be a different sort of discomfort, I suppose. The offer's appreciated, Sky says, nodding at Lady Vesuvius as I leave the room again to get the duck. I think we'll decline for now, but no matter where we end up we're just a quick teleport away, eh? I suppose so, my lady says mildly. Where were you thinking of going? I smile privately to myself as I hear the subtle shift in her tone. Ah, the pleasantries are over. She's going on the attack now. I suspect my lady does not, after all, have any intention of letting Sky and Capita leave her sphere of influence. She hasn't kept them hidden and safe for 2 years in order to allow them to galaband off somewhere to not obey her every whim. I was thinking Sigulda, Sky answers. I still have contacts there. But Capita wants to make sure we're really far away, so she has been pushing to have us teleport all the way to Baldoni. Seems like an unnecessary unknown to me, though. I suppose I'm still a little confused, Lady Vesuvius lies easily. What makes you think ours isn't in Sigulda or Baldoni? Skyhope is the only place on the island I can confirm ours isn't. Wouldn't staying here make the most sense? What? Sky asks, surprised. How do you know ours isn't in Skyhope? Because I smuggled Vida inside and had her check, Lady Vesuvius explains. Her range is in miles now. She covered the entire city and the surrounding area. No ours. Besides, if I was ours, Sigulda or Baldoni would be my first choice of destination, because of the lack of church presence. Go somewhere without any experience dealing with lakeys, establish a massive power base with animancy, and maybe come back to take over Vodka in my spare time a decade down the line. The duck is ready, I announce, timing my entrance to the dining room so that Sky and Capita are stuck thinking about my lady's words for a few moments while I serve everyone. When I'm done, I move to stand behind my lady in case she needs me. She normally never reacts to this, of course. Servants are to be known but not seen. Yet to my surprise, she twists her head to look at me directly. "Nugas," she says slowly, making my heart beat with excitement, you may serve yourself a plate. If you'd like to sit with us, I mean. I can't help it. I start tearing up a bit as I nod in acceptance. Why yes, my lady. Thank you, my lady. Holy shit, that's sad, Sky mutters under his breath. She can still hear you, Sky, my lady reminds him, and I get to enjoy his embarrassed expression almost as much as being able to sit at the dining room table. Almost. I'm sitting at the table, next to my lady. Because, well, I mean, I didn't want to be presumptuous, but Sky and Capita are all on one end of the long table, so one of the seats next to Lady Vesuvius' seat was open, and it's the most convenient seat to participate in the conversation, so. Staying in Skyhope is still a problem without the artist, Capita eventually says, after everyone has had a while to enjoy my cooking. The church is still here. And I do not wish to be captured again. Never again. It was unpleasant. Well, I suppose that's sensible enough, Lady Vesuvius sighs, dabbing primly at her face with a napkin. I'm just surprised. I didn't think you'd just give up after all the work you've put in. There's a beat of silence during which I have to force myself not to laugh. What do you mean? Sky asks. You know I've always disagreed with your methods, Sky, Lady Vesuvius answers. But I've always agreed with your goal. You know I'm not the kind of noble you spent all that effort slaughtering, don't you? Fishing for compliments already, Vesuvius. Sky drawls. Well, I suppose you're right. You're a good biomancer and you do good things with it. You've proven you actually give a shit about the working class, not to mention the people below the working class. But what of it? You make improvements here and there, but the pigs still get fat. It turns out when you kill the pigs, others will simply come to eat the corpses, my lady responds. You had a purge, but no plan. You can't just kill your way to a better world, there needs to be a follow-up. Where are you going with this? Capita asks. The Inquisition did a number on you, Capita, Lady Vesuvius says. I don't think I've ever seen you this afraid. But what if we could make your problems with them disappear? What if we could do that and seize power from the greedy, and create a safe bastion against ours, all in one fell swoop? Sky and Capita glance at each other. We're looking to avoid conflict, Capita says. Not start it. We have a baby to think about. Do you think the Inquisition is going to stop looking for you just because you're not in Skyhope? Lady Vesuvius asks. Probably not, but it's going to be a lot less of a problem than if we were in Skyhope, Sky grunts. Not if the Inquisition is dead, Lady Vesuvius counters. There's not even a clink of silverware as everyone soaks those words in. I can't continue to be polite and demure under these circumstances. A huge grin splits my face. You want us to fight the entire Inquisition with you? Sky asks incredulously. Oh, please, I don't do fights, my lady dismisses. I do one-sided slaughters. Weren't you just on my ass about the perception event being a slaughter? It was a slaughter for its own sake, Lady Vesuvius snaps. It was destructive, indiscriminate, and most damningly, it was unhelpful. You created a power vacuum and had no plan on how to fill it, so now the fucking Templars are in charge. We're even worse off than we were before. But this will be a surgical strike. The Inquisition and nothing else. When they send their main forces out to deal with Vita, they'll be vulnerable. The three of us can wipe them out in minutes without a High Templar to stop us. Then, with the Second Ars crisis rearing its ugly head, The city council will have no choice but to establish new legalized animancy divisions. Which, as a first lady and as one of the most powerful mages in the city, you'll be put in charge of, Sky concludes. You sure they're not going to have that Etna bitch do it instead? Unlikely, and it wouldn't be that terrible of an outcome anyway, my lady explains. Etna is a political ally, and the important thing is establishing the precedent of legalized animancy outside of the church. I'll pull a few favors to get you into the program, Capita, and you'll never have to worry about being a fugitive again. No offense, Vesuvius, but I don't like the idea of the nobility having animancy, Sky grunts. Even if you're in charge. It does sound worrisome, I admit, but keep in mind that the vast majority of nobles aren't even mages, let alone skilled enough ones to quickly learn a new form of magic, Lady Vesuvius says soothingly. And besides, a temptation like that is a good way to start weeding out the corrupt and stupid ones. That's all of them, Vesuvius. Wait, really? My lady smirks. Ah, well. I guess I'll just have to run things myself, then. So what do you say? We wipe out the Inquisition, giving you both a taste of sweet revenge and a safe place to live in Skyhope. We replace the Inquisition with a non-religious animancy body that will actually do some watch-your-damn research and come up with a way to stop ours once and for all. And we do it all while Vida is distracting the brunt of the Templar forces, giving us plenty of time to teleport around the city and wipe out every Inquisition base here. There will be a few inquisitorial stragglers, but nowhere near enough for the Inquisition as a force to still exist. You won't have to run anymore. You can start a family in peace. There's a bit of hemming and hawing from the couple after that, but my lady quickly starts to convince Sky and Capita of her plan. It seems a bit, well, ambitious to me. 3 people against the entire Inquisition? Or is my lady going to recruit more? Either way, I suppose if there's anyone that can get away with this level of ambition, it's my lady. Eventually, she tells me that everyone is done with the tea, I believe, so I nod, collect the teapot, and leave the dining room so I can deactivate the anti-teleportation runes before Capita notices them. I doubt that my lady intended to take no for an answer, but she always prefers willing participants in her schemes to ones she has to strong-arm. Both of them are probably already infected with something that will make disobedience difficult, but until they disobey there's no reason for them to know about it. I decline to rejoin the table, busying myself with cleaning up after dinner and other tasks. About an hour later, Sky and Capita depart. I return to the dining room to find my lady slumped over in her seat, massaging her temples. I am exhausted, she announces. The bath is hot and ready for you, Lady Vesuvius, I respond easily. Oh, thank the Watcher, my lady groans. What would I do without you, Nugas? I suspect you'd probably torture a lot more people, Lady Vesuvius. I answer cheerfully. She chokes, coughing a little as she starts to stand up. I ought not to react to that, continuing to smile and stand perfectly still. I suppose you're right? My lady eventually concedes. You can certainly torture me if you'd like to, Lady Vesuvius, I offer, eagerly hoping she takes me up on it. Ah. No, she unfortunately waves off, starting to walk out of the room. No, that's quite all right. I can't help it. As she passes me in the doorway, I lean over and stage whisper into her ear. It's awfully cruel of you to make me want something so much, but never give it to me. She stares at me in terrified silence for a moment, then turns and continues walking towards the bath. Letting out a slight giggle, I follow from my proper place behind her. It's hard to imagine Capita and Sky raising a child, my lady says idly. It reminds me, actually. Did you know that Vitamin considers you to be my daughter? I laugh again. I did know that. She's very cute, isn't she? But she's wrong, of course. You could never be my mother. My lady nods at that, seeming relieved. You are my goddess, I continue. You crafted me from living clay, not as a child but as a fully new being. In every sense of the phrase, you are the reason for my existence. It would be silly to consider you nothing more than a mother. She cranes her head back to stare at me again. I give her my best smile. I do love it when you look at me seriously, Lady Vesuvius, I tell her. She seems to consider something for a while, then faces forward again, away from me. You may call me Penelope, she allows. If you wish. My smile grows wider. Yes, Lady Penelope. We say nothing else as we continue down the hall, but that's okay. It's time for my lady's bath, after all, and I wouldn't miss that for anything. Tope continued. Thanks for listening.